Hey, this is Brittany Barrow, and I'm interviewing Dr. Mummert for the Lab School Oral Histories Project, English 482. So, I just wanted to start by some background information about you. I know that that some of your siblings also went to lab school, and your mom was a teacher. Did she teach at the lab school?
Yes, she did.
Oh, okay. And how long were you there for?
I was part of the lab school from preschool, which is, our preschool was in what is now the Alumni House. And then in Simpkins, I was in Simpkins from kindergarten through 11th grade, and then the lab school moved to Horgan Hall, and I graduated from the lab school in Horgan Hall.
So, I mean, I have a lot of my classes in Simpkins. I'm an English major. So, how does the building change? I know we did go on a tour, but are there just distinct changes that you have noticed in the building structure that it was?
Yeah, I think the biggest change that I noticed is that the ceilings have been lowered.
Okay.
I'm sure that's a economical thing for heating and cooling. So that, in terms of looks, that's a big change. The other thing is that the COFAC concert hall was our big gym. That was our biggest gym, and that's where homecoming and prom and basketball games and PE stuff all happened in there. So it's a little odd, particularly as you go to the restrooms that are attached to COFAC. That's actually the back hallway to the girls' locker room. So I don't know if it's real or if it's in my head, but I smell locker room whenever I make the trip down those stairs.
Well, what were your best and worst memories of the lab school while you were there?
Oh, I think my best memories are lunchtime during the winter. We always had lots of choices. We didn't have recess. Because we had PE every day or multiple days a week, we didn't have recess. We did have we had an extended lunchtime. And so during the winter, our choices of things to do during lunch, and this was especially like from, I don't know, second or third grade until through junior high maybe, our choices were to go in the big gym and do all kinds of playing stuff. And sometimes they had trampolines out and all kinds of really fun stuff, in addition to, dodgeball and that kind of thing. If it was decent enough in that you wouldn't freeze your person, you could go outside and, throw snowballs and do that kind of stuff. But the other things is you could go into the library, and our library was wonderful. You could read, or you could go into the small room and do, a lot of times we do paper dolls, and we play boxcar children and strange stuff. And then the theater that is directly behind to the east of our library, they would show us movies. And so it would usually take almost a week to do a movie, because we'd see about 20 minutes. And then the next day you'd have to show back a little bit. So it would take 4 or 5 days to do a movie. But we saw old Shirley Temple movies and Errol Flynn movies and John Wayne movies, and many of us became real film fans because we had a chance to watch such fun stuff. So those are really wonderful memories, because depending on what you were doing, where you were doing it, you were playing with different people and doing different stuff. But there were just so many choices. That was great. Worst memories, I think worst memories are probably all just personal. A fight with so-and-so, or, my best girlfriend and I got in a tiff, or, those kinds of things. Otherwise, I don't think there were really no complaints in terms of how the school was run or opportunities that we had. We always had more opportunities than most. I think probably because we were in school more than most, and because we were required to go to summer school through 8th grade. And I mean, that was a requirement. If your parents would not sign the paper that said you would be in summer school through 8th grade, then you just didn't come. So we had more opportunities to do more stuff because we had some extended time. So, yeah, no complaints.
Great to hear. Well, actually, I'm going to go a little bit further because after lab school, I was going to ask, where did you go to college? I think you went to college in Iowa.
I did. I went to the University of Iowa for my undergrad, and I did Northern Iowa for my master's and Illinois State for my doctorate.
Yeah. So I guess what I want to ask is, has the lab school created some type of foundation or opened up some avenues that maybe you wouldn't have had in going into your undergraduate career?
Financially, no.
Okay.
I think the biggest advantage was that there was basically an attitude, and it was, I don't think it was conscious, it was just kind of in the air. We all assumed we were going to college. So there was, the thought of going to college was not a stretch. You just assumed you were going to. So I think that was probably the biggest advantage, was not being scared of college. And part of that was how close we were with the university. But the other thing was probably, I'm guessing, I may be exaggerating, but I'm guessing half or better of my classmates, we had about 50 kids in each class, and about half of my classmates had parents who were faculty. So there were some real restrictions about where lab school kids could go in terms of places where the college kids were social, the union and stuff like that. But, we went to see people's parents' offices, and we bopped around campus, and there were college students in and out of our classes observing and doing field experiences and student teaching and all kinds of stuff. So there wasn't a lot of mystery about college. It was just kind of there. I think that was an advantage. It wasn't a scary thing. And the other thing is, like I said, going to school longer than most, we didn't have any of the recoup time that students typically do, so we didn't waste time in August and September reviewing what we'd lost over the summer. We usually had a couple of weeks between school and summer school, and then we usually had 3-4 weeks at the end. But we never had the opportunity to lose what we'd learned the year before. So we just kept moving forward, and I think that was a real advantage too.
Retention is always a problem in summer school.
Oh, it is.
In the summertime. But speaking of your classmates, how was the classroom environment when you were at the lab school? Can you remember certain things that you didn't like as a student, or you maybe really liked?
Because there were only 50 of us, the best thing and the worst thing is that we knew each other really well. So I think the best thing was that we all had history. So even if you didn't much like somebody or you weren't best buddies, they were still somebody that, over time people become really good friends, and then they're not such good friends, and then other people are good friends. But I think because we had history, we cared about each other whether we liked each other or not, which was kind of a good thing. I think the toughest thing probably was that if you're a nerdy kid when you're in second grade, it took quite a while to make a change in your reputation reputation. So it's, I think that probably the hardest thing is that you got pegged and it was really hard to unpeg. So that was probably the hardest thing.
Was it 50 kids? Did it start at 50 and just kept at 50 throughout? I know you started.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. Now, with a kindergarten, a kindergarten of 50 was broken up. So there were two kindergarten, it was 25 feet. And there was rarely a single adult in the classroom. There were usually a couple. Now, kindergarten, I only remember there being one kindergarten teacher in each room and one first grade teacher in each room, but there was always a lot of extra help with university students who were in and out. So kindergarten and first grade were broken up, and then after that, second grade it was all 50 of us, but we had two full-time teachers, two full-time certified teachers, and then all of the university folks who were in and out. So it was, there was a lot of variety in terms of we did a lot of large group activities, but there were always times during core academics where small groups were being pulled away for this or that. So there was the opportunity for help or differentiation of instruction if there needed to be and that kind of thing.
How do you're very polite, very well spoken and articulate, I think. And I want to know, how do you feel about the last school being changed and turned into the English department on a Western campus?
Well, it's, on some levels it hurts my heart that there have been physical changes in it because it was it was a prettier place before. By the same token, I'm thrilled that it is still a viable building and that it's being used well and used often. So, and I'm thrilled that the COFAC concert hall is just delightful, and we needed it, and that was a good spot for it. After it stopped being a university school, I don't know what use they made of the gym until the ROTC program took that over as a gym. But then ROTC moved down here and became part of the College of Ed and Human Services. So then there really wasn't any need for the gym up there, and it's great that they've made that use of space. So, on one hand, it kind of hurts my heart that it's not exactly as it was when I was a kid. But on the other hand, I'm just thrilled that it's a building that's being used well, and nice to see folks using all those fun rooms.
It's kind of nostalgia. I hope I had that. What were the names of the lab school when you attended? Did it change names at one point, or?
We always called it the lab school.
Okay.
It had been, I think originally it was the academy, and that was in a different place. I'm not positive, but I think it might have been where the art gallery is now, or if not, it was in that area. And then it became the lab school. There might have been another name. But we always called it the lab school.
You always knew it as the lab school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I have to ask you about this because it's a very popular question. The curse, or the haunting of the lab school.
I had heard zip about that.
Okay.
And so it may be so. And I know when Warren and I came, he had heard some people who had evidence, who had what they thought of as evidence for that. It may be so. I have no clue, but I know that it was not a topic of conversation when I was in school.
All right, it's speculation. I'm telling you, around October, people are like, this place is haunted. Simpkins is haunted.
But there are enough people who've been in and out of there, so it could be.
Okay. when you were at the, I guess I want you to describe yourself as a student. I know you're involved in a lot of extracurricular activities at the last school.
Yeah.
How would you describe yourself as a student when you were enrolled?
As a high school student, I was one of those kids who was smack dab in the middle. I wasn't one of the popular crowd, and I wasn't one of the kids who learned. I had a nice group of friends that some of whom are still friends that I did stuff with. I was reasonably active in extracurriculars. I think my favorite thing to do was that we had lots and lots of school dances, and that was my all-time favorite thing. So I think I was pretty nondescript. I think I was just sort of same old.
Kind of how I was in the middle. Were there 50 people in your graduating class?
Give or take. I don't remember whether every once in a while, there were faculty moved in and their kids needed to be in a specific grade. Sometimes they'd go up a little bit, or we'd lose people maybe down a little bit. So I don't really know whether we were 50 or 51 or 52, but that's about the case.
I'm sorry, I just came from like a public school system, and how it changes kind of frequently, and how the people that you start with, you rarely, end up with. And that was just for me from pre-K to 8th grade. Yeah, it was really rare.
Well, I think people came and left, but there were, the vast majority, I don't know about vast majority, I'm guessing that 2/3 of the people that I graduated with, I had known for 10 years or more. So that there was a lot of continuity with that. I think one of the nicest things about it, it was almost like being in a parochial school because everybody knew everybody. Everybody also knew everybody's brothers and sisters, and typically knew people's parents. So there was a good deal of security for parents, I think, because you'd say, well, where are you going tonight? Well, I'm going to Krongs. Okay, so they knew what kind of people the Krongs were, and they knew what kinds of things they would allow to go on at their house, and I had a good sense of, well, who's going to be there? Well, Lois and Betsy and Ruth and da-da-da-da-da-da. And they knew who all those people were. They knew what to expect with them. So it's not that we never did anything that our parents wouldn't have been thrilled about, but there was a real sense of, I think parents had a real sense of what their kids were about and who their kids were with. And we always sort of had a sense of safety in that when we went to somebody's house, we knew what we were going to get into also. So it wasn't like you're going to a house party and you have no idea, oh boy, all kinds of things are happening that you're not expecting. That typically wasn't the case. So there was a lot of security in that.
Yeah, I'm just sensing a community, like a sense of.
I think that's a fair way to say that. It really was a community.
So you didn't really have any fear. I mean, as a parent, I was, as parents always very secure.
Well, especially once kids start driving. But we did a lot of going places as packs of kids in, particularly upper, 5th, 6th grade, 7th, 8th grade, and 9th grade, when you don't have. So if we would all go to the football game in 7th or 8th grade, 10 of us had walked down to Aurelio's, from Hanson Field. We'd walk down to Aurelio's, and our parents would know up front, we're going to go down to Aurelio's, and somebody will call you at 9 o'clock, and you'll go pick up a bunch of kids. So it was pretty easy.
I have some other questions. I really do. I don't know why I can't think of it now. I wanted to talk a little bit about your teachers at the last school. Are there a couple that you really remember, like really stand out to you?
Oh, absolutely. We had wonderful teachers. every once in a while there would be somebody who came and went and didn't last long. But by and large, we had phenomenal teachers. Mrs. Kowal was one of my third grade teachers, and she was, oh my goodness, it was really fun as I got older. I got to know her a little bit as an adult, and she was just one of those ladies that made you feel good most of the time, and there was just a lot of energy, and she liked learning. She wanted us to like learning. She liked the kids. She liked the process. It was just a very positive, nice kind of experience. She was a tiny little lady, and just a stitch, and sharp as a tack, and into her 90s. I mean, she was just great. Mrs. Stifler was one of my English teachers. I think she was I know she was one of my English teachers in high school, but I'm thinking she may have also been 8th grade. She's a fascinating lady. She was chair of the English department for a while. She had been in the Navy in the Second World War. She had grown up on a farm. I mean, she'd been and done and traveled, and very, very, very bright, and she challenged us like crazy. So, less than stellar work was not tolerated, but it wasn't that there was no whip. It was just, you can do better, and, just keep working on this. So she was very, very motivating, and just a delight. I saw her in the grocery store last week, which was so cool. So absolutely cool.
Oh, that's nice. Is there, I guess this question is more about something tangible that you could talk about, one thing, actual thing that you could touch from the last school. What would be something that you would want to take with you?
Ooh, physically, I don't know. Gosh. I can't think of a thing. I really can't think of a thing. Physically, well, I tell you what I took with me for a while, sort of in my head. One of the things that I loved when we were kids, the hallway, or at least this is my memory, knowing full well that it could be faulty. The first floor of Simpkins with the taller ceiling. Above the tile, there were prints that were very romantic. I think like N.C. Wyeth prints. They'd be prints of Guinevere and Lancelot and that kind of stuff. And it really, just seeing those, even as a little kid, because you left that floor as a first grader, maybe come back down for art and that kind of stuff. But typically you didn't spend most of your time on that floor after first grade, except traveling here and there. But I think those prints really attracted me, and the result was, as an older person, I've sort of past that at this point, but as a young adult and as a young person on my own, I was nuts about N.C. Wyeth prints and had a number of those kinds of things when I first had my own places, and read everything I could find about the King Arthur legend. Boy, that's one of those legends that's all over the world. Mm-hmm. So I just read everything I could find about that because I was just fascinated, and I'm very sure that's what piqued my interest.
Oh, amazing. Something so, I guess, concrete can start something bigger.
Oh, it's just really fun. and kind of odd because really we only went, you start out on that floor to go anyplace else, but the art floor was the art room was on the first floor, the lunchroom was on the access to the lunchroom was on the first floor and access to the band room. But you just, in terms of spending any time on that floor, it was pretty gone after, you know, the first couple of years. So I just have to think those must have been wonderful to have sort of stuck in my head for as long as they did.
And it really meant something to you.
Kind of did, and I have no clue why.
Well, before we finish, because I have no more questions, is there anything else you wanted to add about the last school, any final thoughts or something, anything you want anybody to remember for you as a student?
No, I'm just real grateful to have had the opportunity. I mean, I think there are things that we miss. You know, when you're in a large school, I think you change social groups more often than you do when you're in a smaller school. You know, certainly we didn't have 5 languages to choose from, if like you do in some city schools, and that kind of thing. But they did a really good job of giving us a good liberal arts education, and that was, I'm just really grateful to have had that opportunity. And I don't think there would have been many, if any, kids who were left behind in that somebody didn't try to in different subject matter or whatever. I'm sure there were a few kids who didn't go on to college, but they went on to do other things. And I don't think college is necessary, be all and end all for everybody.
Right.
So, but I'm just really grateful that I think it was a wonderful start.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For the interview. It was a pleasure.